This is absolutely Essendon. It's our round 22 game review. The Bombers against the Suns. You couldn't write it. You couldn't script it. Could you?
Well, I think it was scripted.
Well,
to be honest, but anyway.
We do possibly live in a simulation, but we'll come back to that. We'll cover that by the end of this episode. Thanks again for tuning in, but I don't know what we have in store for you today. That was quite a knife to the heart in the dying seconds, but the Dons going down, after winning by 1 point last week, going down by 1 point against the Suns, Marvel Stadium. This is a team that this year I'm talking about the Suns, has travelled like yogurt. Have not been able to win any time they've gone interstate. But of course, against us, they managed to win in the most cruelest of way. They scorched us and scorched our finals ambitions. But maybe that's the least of our worries. Let's face it. I don't know, where shall we start with this episode today? I know you've been busily scratching out some notes.
Yes,
but that was tough. That was hard, so hard to swallow. But in many ways, also expected.
Well, if you actually thought we were half a chance against this team, you are deluded. We were never in this game. We were never going to win it, let's be honest. We had our grand final the week before.
That was it, was it?
And it was a glorious, amazing and a magnificent August premiership for us against the travelling Dockers. And our boys were already in Ibiza by the time we met the fearsome, rampant Gold Coast Suns at not so marvellous stadium. I believe it's the first time ever that Gold Coast has beaten the same team twice in a season.
Oh.
Someone out there will be able to confirm that, but even if that's not true, I'm going to run with it because I tell you what, it certainly felt like it.
We love creating these stats.
Yep. But if I might, Joe, and thank you for that most heartfelt and passionate introduction.
Right.
I think you really encapsulated it beautifully. I just want to talk about the infamous days since we last won a final because as of today, when we are recording, which is the day after we lost to the Gold Coast Suns, it's now 7,281 days. Now, I know a lot of Essendon people don't like hearing that because there's a lot of memes going around and Facebook pages, and I think even the New York Times is now running with it on their front page. 7,281 days, which I have done some mathematics with.
Have you?
Yes. That is, in fact, 174,741 hours, 10,484,640 minutes.
Righto.
629,078,400 seconds. So in case you were just wondering, and I'm sure many of you
Thanks for extrapolating that.
So, if I may continue with your blessings.
Sure.
In the year 2004, there were 6.4 billion people on this planet.
Right.
As we speak, there's 8.2. So if my math serves me correctly, there's an additional 1.8 billion people have enjoyed our period of utter mediocrity, which is amazing when you think about it.
Right.
The number of prime ministers that we've had since then,
how long?
Only bettered by the number of coaches that we've had at Essendon Football Club. The Beatles produced in 8 years, 13 of the greatest pieces of musical work ever done, and we haven't been able to win a final in 20. Go figure.
Okay.
You know the distance that the Earth has travelled in the time since we last won a final is 18.8 billion kilometres through the ether of space. That's 470,000 trips around the Earth in terms of distance. So I'm going to say it right now. We're in a little bit of a pickle.
Right? Is that well, mate? The defence rests.
Thank you.
I think you've covered it there beautifully. But you need to be aware. You need to stay mindful that people come here for therapy generally after these sort of games, and I don't think any of that is helping anybody. But if I just may add something, I don't know where I saw this over the last week or two. The statistical possibility of Essendon not winning a final in, I think, 2022 years, I think is less than 1/3%. So what that means is that all the machinations of the club, all the decision making, all the moves, all the levers that they've pulled have actually gone against us. Have contributed to that.
So what you're saying is maybe had no one turned up at the hangar,
yes,
and plotted out a path to victory, we might have won something. We might have actually won. Had we left it purely in the hands of those infamous footy gods.
That's right. So on draft night, if you just had placed a blindfold on, and just grabbed the pin and just gone, I'll have that guy, we'd be.
A dart, you mean?
Yes. Well, whatever it is, right. If they had just left the coach that was already there, just continue doing what they were doing, we'd be in front of where we are now.
Or just let the cleaner coach, maybe. Just someone kick a goal, please. You know, that's all he had to do.
Yes.
No, I know we joke, and. We sometimes get accused of being a tad negative.
And precious. And knobs.
Well, the knob bit's fair enough.
And wankers.
Yeah, that's a stretch. But anyway, the truth is, of course, we report on what we see. We are not fake news.
No,
not. We say it as it is, and for those that continue to pester us in our comments about, you're not showing any positive, be optimist, guys, we're still here. Where are you? This is Sunday morning. You're probably relaxing at home with your kids, splashing around in the pool if you're in the northern states.
Yes.
And we're here at work.
Well, stretch, but yes, we do continually we see comments where we're asked to be a little bit more patient.
By the way, please don't feel that we're saying don't comment if you disagree with us. We absolutely love it because the algorithm just goes into overdrive.
Does it?
And all of that sweet coin that we earn from this just keeps rolling in. So no, look, fair enough. If you think we're being negative, that is absolutely your prerogative. You go on believing. You be you. And if you're convinced that this football club is heading in the right direction, then I am jealous, actually, Joe, of those people because I don't believe it is. And I think we've all had enough, right? And here we are, a week after the false dawn, another false dawn of the win over Fremantle. You know what? This was always going to happen, right? Yeah. Right, it was always going to happen. We were always going to be the first team to let the Gold Coast win away after 17 attempts.
Yes.
It was always going to be us. It was always going to be us that allowed Mac Andrews to kick 4 goals after his entire career goal tally was what, only
4 goals?
4 goals.
Yeah. Last night was very much, once again, suffering at the consequences of our own actions. Once again, we kicked 1 goal 9 in that last quarter. Hey, that can happen, but it was once again these forward entries yielding very, very little, or just pressure scoring. And was that the first time that they came up this year? No, unfortunately, it was something that had come up time and time again. And boy, did it come home and to haunt us last night. So in terms of the game, again, we were in it. We were in it for a big part of it. But what sort of even hurts me is that Gold Coast were travelling backwards and forwards over the last few weeks. Essendon has been at home for 8 weeks. All the players been snug in their own little beds, nice and comfortable.
Correct.
But we just couldn't quite make it happen.
I think Gold Coast played in Perth last week. Is that correct?
I think so.
I can't remember.
But
anyway, I mean, if that's true, and I've heard someone say that it is, that is an even more remarkable effort that they've played over in Perth.
They did.
And had to fly back to the sunny Gold Coast.
That's true.
Which is, about a 5-hour flight, I think, or something like that.
Yes.
Sure. And then only to have to board, Ryanair to come down to Melbourne. And is that our discount airline? Whatever it is, EasyJet.
Where have you been
Starjet.
No.
Either way, they made their way down from the Gold Coast, and here they were in Melbourne last night, their second road trip in a row, and they did the job. Good on them. Damien Hardwick, that most beloved of ex-Essendon players, premiership champion with the Bombers, an utter arsehole. He was right. He famously called us a team of spuds after Richmond were downed by the Bombers. I think it was in the Sam Durham game when Durham kicked the goal just before the siren.
All right. So it came. So that came home to.
He was right.
Right.
He was absolutely on the money. It was a dimmer,
but not that night.
Yes, but anyway, so the Gold Coast. Look, to be fair, they were pretty good. To be fair, they've been pretty good this year. They just haven't been able to get the away victory. Well, they broke the ice on that last night. Conversely, we just fell back into our old habits, and there was some effort. I'm not going to question that. There was effort. I thought the Bombers just typically didn't have the finishing, didn't have the polish, didn't have the composure to take advantage of their good work. And that last quarter, you talk about you couldn't write this stuff. I mean, that no script writer would have even dared to suggest that last quarter, and particularly with the villain that was Mac Andrews getting the glory of kicking that goal after a siren. I mean, it was like written by the gods, absolutely was, and we completely blew it again, and it's been much the case all year.
It has, but there were some moments though in that last quarter where I thought, when McGrath laid that beautiful tackle, run and chase tackle, inspiring for the team. Archie Roberts kicking that goal. That was in the last quarter, wasn't it? I just thought maybe this is it. Maybe this is it. No, it wasn't.
No.
It was not it. It was another false dawn. But we're getting used to having that. Anyway, I feel like we are being negative again.
Well,
but,
look,
it's
what
hurting.
Can you do? You saw the game. We all watched the game. It's all there for us to comment on. Look, try to pull some positives out of it. Okay, let's do that. I thought Caddy was a bright spark. He's still working on his game. He's a young kid, but boy, oh boy, as long as Essendon doesn't get to him, he will be a star.
Yes.
I think we've seen enough of Archie Roberts already to say that he's beautiful left foot disposal,
big massive tick,
lot of attitude about him. I love the look of that.
Composure,
I think he's
cool
a player.
head, just maturity beyond his years.
Absolutely. But, we had to beg and plead the football club to select the kid in the first place. I mean, this is the thing. All of us average Joes that watch the game, we're not professionals, we're not AFL coaches, could see that this kid had some promise. But, okay, maybe Brad Scott's going to say, well, he's showing that form because we were patient with him. Maybe. But, who else in that seconds team, that VFL team is just withering on the vine and could be a performer in our AFL side? I tell you one, Lewis Hayes should have been selected to play this week. There is no way he could have done a worse job than Nick Cox down back. In the end, Nick Cox, I think, got concussed. I'm sorry to hear that, but it was probably to our benefit that he left the ground before half-time, I think it was, right?
It was before half-time, He was substituted for Hobbs. It was good to see Hobbs get on the ground and get some game time. And may I just add, the lovely thing I love about Caddy is that there was one of his very nice goals, grabbing the ball around the 50-metre line and then running towards goal on the right-hand side, slotted it in nicely. We all remember that game against Adelaide where I think he had a similar opportunity there and tried a banana. Hayes learned from that very quickly. Love it. Nailed it.
Yeah.
Want to commend.
He'd be one of the few that's learnt anything because you're seeing the same mistakes being made over and over again by the usual suspects. I mean, Jake Stringer, I heard through the week that Brad Scott with a wry smile, suggested that Stringer was going to be back next year. I don't think that's the right choice for this club. I honestly think Jake's been a serviceable player, but his failure to lead by example in that game against Gold Coast, when he had multiple shots, went for the Hail Mary shots many times and nothing came off. I think he had one goal from a set shot. Yep. But, these guys continue to make the same mistakes over and over again. And no one's learning. I think the game against Gold Coast was certainly not there's no issue of the team not trying, but what they try is often misguided and misplaced. And overuse of handball, handballing to players in worse positions. The sort of trying to do these bullet-like foot passes through traffic and turning the ball over. And then the big one, the big crime, the constant repeating problem throughout the year is our delivery of the football into the forward 50 is just not at a league standard. I think we must be one of the worst in the competition
Bottom
for that.
four,
I think we won the inside 50s again last night, about 60 inside 50s, and failed to capitalise. And it was very obvious early that it was just going to be one of those nights.
Yeah.
So
I couldn't agree more. And it's. I don't know where to start. I'm trying to sort of come up with new stuff. I just feel like we're repeating ourselves.
Well, we are.
It feels like Groundhog Day.
There's no point talking about the game. The game is simply, rinse and repeat. It's the same thing we've seen. So this is a problem, because when we started this channel, we thought, this is just what an easy gig, because each episode writes itself. But actually it doesn't, because we're just going through the same Groundhog Day over and over again. So I thought, again, with your blessings, Joseph, just have a little look back at the season, because I think it's dead. We all know that. We're not making the finals. Probably that is a blessing in disguise. We've got 2 games to go against teams that are in the top 4, both of whom are going to be fighting hard for ladder position. And if we can get close to beating either of Sydney or Brisbane, that will be an insult to every supporter at the club. But I just look, a couple of things. If you've got time,
I think we've got time. Pull up a chair.
I want to read a note that was sent to me by a friend of mine and a very passionate Essendon man, Peter. And you know who you are. I won't reveal his last name because he's a very well-known man around town, particularly in the property industry. But he wrote this, and he wrote this to me last night. And if you could just bear with me while I read this out. It'll take just a minute.
Let's do it.
Essendon's losing culture is ingrained in everything they do. Votso is a nice CEO. He's nice. He's quiet. He's compliant. Probably buys muffins for the girls in the admin at the hangar once a week. Would he know what ruthless means? Definitely not. Barham is like Barnaby Joyce. A dithering mess when speaking publicly. Train wreck stuff, probably wears black suit pants with a navy jacket. Brad Scott hates journos and fans being resultists. Like the ladder position doesn't matter. As long as we get the process right, but we lose, that's okay. It's a complete bitch slap to the longest suffering fans in the AFL. In the last 20 years, there has been a few good wins, no finals wins, and barely any champions or all-Australian players. The only champion in that time is Merritt. Hurley was a very good player, but no champion. People like Sam Draper and his pistol celebrations last night, that's all very well, mate, but you missed 2 sodas in the last quarter, plus his 2 piss-poor efforts in the last 90 seconds last night cost us the game. It's mentally torturing following this club. The fans deserve so much better. We will lose a lot of Essendon fans because of this era.
Thank
you, Peter.
Thank you, Pete. Yeah, that's quite the summary. I would say that that echoes the thoughts and feelings of many.
So it's
many
not just us being
right
that way, right?
Okay.
It's around the whole fan base, and anyone who follows the club closely probably reads a bit of the social media. I think it's a little more tame this week, the disappointment, compared to after the St Kilda game.
Because we're getting used to it.
Yeah, but it's just that, same thing as usual. We just resign to our fate, and the anger sort of washes away, and you just become numb to it. And going back to your point, maybe if we didn't try to win, we'd win. Yeah. Maybe if we just thought, let's just see what happens, get rid of all the clowns that run the place, get rid of the coaches, just get a bunch of guys who care and let them run out on the football field. Let's just see what happens. Get rid of Dodoro. Let's just recruit players.
No, he's just having some leave.
Let's just do something different is what we're all asking for.
Well, this week what was interesting was that Carlton made their move early. They moved on their high performance training guy. Interesting that they decided to do it this week. They're obviously going through a rough patch themselves. Maybe they're blaming it on the performance, the conditioning of the players. Maybe they're not. Maybe it's just. But it's just interesting that they did it this time of the year.
Yeah.
How much do you think with Essendon? Because as fans, we think we can see, and we don't know everything that's going on in the background, and we don't maybe know the full extent of injuries, and we don't know the full picture, but we can still see things. How much of it is just obstinance? Is that a word?
Yes,
stubbornness.
Yeah, well, stubbornness.
Just thinking that they know best. We're just the nuffies, and they're just going to continue on their path, whatever path that is that they've mapped out for the club. But at the moment, the 8-year plan. Are we in? How long has that been going?
We're in the second year of it.
No, or is it, no? Oh, this is the second 8-year.
Who knows? I won't be around for it. That's for sure. And that's the sad thing. Actually, is a lot of people won't be around for it.
Yeah,
a lot of older guys out there, and we're mortal.
Well, I
know some people think I'm a god, but
sure,
I'm mortal.
Sure, no,
and honestly, the question crosses your mind: am I ever going to see the success at this football club again in my lifetime?
Yeah. It is, but by the same token, you've got a lot of young guys, 23, 24 years old, that are just going far.
I think there's a lot fewer of those young guys now than there was. There's, my son, bless him, he's done. He's 26. And
he's pulled the pin.
He was passionate about the Bombers, and he's just realised there's more to life than following this football club, and he's enjoying life again. He hasn't gone. He used to come to the game with me. He's decided he's not going to go anymore for his own mental health, and he's doing other things. He's at Crochet Club every Saturday now.
Is he?
And loving it because they show a little bit more pressure on the ball than our football team. They do, the old ladies down at the Crochet Club.
Do they? Yeah.
So,
well, they're very intense. So I think one of the things that has been discussed ad nauseum, comes up a lot in the press conferences with our coach, is how much we've improved on last year. Now, I think it was a couple of weeks ago that he said he's no doubt that the improvement has been infinite down at our club. So
infinite.
Yes.
That means without end.
It does.
Fair enough.
So, I don't know, looking back now, the season isn't over, but if we look at the games and where we won, how we won.
Oh, did you want me to say that? Or?
Yeah. Well, I thought of something else, but let's do that. I'll come back to that.
But just on Brad Scott, I think the man is clearly deluded. I'm not saying Scott doesn't deserve another year as a coach, but that's all he should be getting, honestly. If we are not a team that is threatening for the finals next year, and let's be honest, we know that's unlikely to happen. We've been saying that for the last 20 years. He's dead man walking, and he's only got himself to blame, I think, because his lack of selection creativity. I heard a caller on 3AW after the game last night just saying we lose virtually every game at the selection table, and it's this constant support of kind of has-been veteran players. Thankfully, we're now letting guys like Heppel and Goldstein see out their careers in the reserves, because with all due respect to both of those guys, and they've both been warriors over their careers, they're not at that standard anymore, and they shouldn't be playing in the
Father
NFL
time
team.
may have caught up with them.
The fact that Heppel's still there is probably a question about the club's ruthlessness. Sorry, go on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's even younger players that perhaps have been given enough of a go, and maybe we need to try some others as well. But and the other point that he makes as well is that we've improved, but everyone else has improved too. So.
That makes a whole lot of sense, doesn't it?
The net, we're in the net.
Does he understand the concept of relativity?
So we're in the net same position. Oh,
so
God.
What he's saying, if I understand correctly, is we've improved, so back off. But the only reason we're still shit is because everyone else has improved.
As well.
Oh, okay. That means that we're in a state of permanent status quo, because every year we improve, everyone else improves, we go backwards, everyone else goes backwards, so we're just stuck in 9th, 10th, 11th on the ladder.
Net gain, nil.
That's called infinity. That's infinite. So Brad, look, you can fool some of the people some of the time. Now, fair enough, I know he's not going to throw players under the bus in a press conference, but by God, he needs to be throwing them under the bus when he gets back into the dressing rooms, because this team is just blowing their leads. They are just constantly making the same dumb, low IQ errors. And, we're not going to be negative. I promised you that. But let me just have a quick... Can I go through this quickly?
Yes,
because I think we're on... we do have limited time today.
Right.
I just want to look at the wins that we've had throughout the year, because, look, I'm not going to be telling anybody anything they haven't either thought of themselves or heard. But I think we've won 11 games and drawn 1.
Yes.
But have we ever really put a team to the sword this season? And the answer is no, we haven't. I mean, we've had a couple of good wins, and I think the Bulldogs win and the Gold Coast win earlier in the season.
GWS, you mean?
Sorry, GWS. We're both in that classification of being good wins.
Yeah.
Not smashing wins, but good wins. But if you look at it, we defeated Hawthorn in round 1 by 24 points, but that was only by virtue of a 5-goal blast in the last quarter, 5-2. But otherwise, Hawthorn were all over us. They, in fact, had 6 more scoring shots in that game. We defeated the Saints in round 3 by 4 points, but we trailed in that game at 3/4 time, so we just got over the line against them. And they've been pretty average all year.
Yes.
I talked about the Bulldogs, solid win. Then in round 6, we beat Adelaide over in Adelaide by just 3 points, and that was, if you remember, the Draper belly flop.
Hatched egg. Yes.
Got
so arguably should have lost.
Got lucky. Then we had the draw against Collingwood, where we gave up a 4-goal lead, and we're probably, lucky that at the very end of that game, Jamie Elliott spilled a mark in the forward 50. He just needed a point to win the game. Of course, Langford missed as well, to be fair. Round 8, we defeated the mighty West Coast Eagles, the fearsome West Coast Eagles, by 6 points, but only after what's his name? Cripps.
Yes.
Gave away a dumb free kick in our forward 50, and we scored.
Yes.
We then beat the Giants, which was a pretty good win, 20 points. Then we got North Melbourne. Now we smacked them by 40 points. Well, we didn't really. North were, in fact, won 2 out of the 3 quarters that we hadn't won, and it was only an 8-goal burst in the 3rd quarter.
Again.
Otherwise, it was that flattered us. We defeated Richmond by 12 points, a team that at the time we played them had only won 1 game. And we were lucky in that game too, because if I remember, I think it was Dustin Martin could have narrowed that gap with a few minutes to go.
Yes.
And let's be honest, they're the wooden spooner this year, right?
Yeah, correct.
Couldn't put them away. Then we had West Coast coming across to play us in Marvel, and we beat them by 30 points. And you think, okay, that's not bad yet. But remember, this is West Coast in Melbourne, a team that's only won 4 or 5 games in the last 3 years.
And may I just add, sort of, we're losing to other teams in the same period by 80 points, 90 points.
So they had us pretty much on toast at some points of that game, and we managed to make the score look better because we had 3 goals in the last 2 or 3 minutes of the game to flatter the scoreline again. We defeated Collingwood by 12 points, and everyone was hailing that as the statement game. We had to beat a big team. We had to take a big scalp. 12 points. This was after we were trailing by 5 goals against the side that went on to lose their next 3 games in a row. And then we beat the awesome and fearsome and frightening Fremantle Dockers, who were travelling away to Marvel by a very impressive 1 point.
But travelling to MC, that was MCG.
To the MCG.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes, but that was really a 10-minute burst in the last quarter. Otherwise, we were done.
Correct.
We were gone. It was over.
Exactly. We were 24 points down at one stage, I think, in that game. And it was only, look, to be fair, a good clearance at the last 30 seconds that saw Merritt get the ball to Durham, who subsequently scored the point. And there you have it. So our wins throughout the year have been fortunate in most cases, lucky in some, and a couple where we've had a credible and commendable outcome. But other than that, it has been utterly unimpressive. So where on earth is Brad Scott coming from when he says we have shown infinite improvement? We certainly haven't in our gameplay. We certainly haven't in terms of the ladder position. And if you really think about it, I would think there's maybe 2 or 3 players this season who have shown improvement over the previous year. Right. So thank you for bearing with me as I went through all of that.
Right. So it comes back to then what is the biggest contributing factor? Now, as you know, we read all the comments, and so there's some differing views, as you would expect, and a lot of the comments say it's mental. It's a mental thing with the players, that ruthlessness. Others say it's just basic skills, execution. Others do point to a game plan.
Yeah.
In that, whether it's transitioning out of defence, it's just everything. The way we're getting that ball into the forward 50. To me, I am disturbed that it was an issue at the end of the last season. We were hopeful over the summer that it would be addressed. First 2 or 3 games, we were okay, if you recall, this year. We thought, hang on, that seems to have been... they've been working on that. They've been tinkering. But now it actually seems like it's getting worse. It doesn't feel like it's being addressed, like there's some approach, there's some new strategy that the other teams seem to address and work on. Gold Coast last night seemed to have some space, seemed to get the ball on the chest of their players, but ours was all just kicking to a pack, mess, ball cleaned up, out, gone.
Yeah, I mean, look, there is, I think, an argument for every aspect of the way in which this club is run and operated to say that it is below standard. I think our coaching is poor, our game plan is... I'm not sure ever... to be honest, I don't even know what the game plan is. But if it's what I've seen in the last, 20 weeks or so, it's almost changes from week to week. It's non-existent. Gary Lyons said it, the problem with Essendon is they don't know how to grind out a game. Let alone a season.
Yeah.
And I think that's very true. And we talked and joke about the edge. I mean, the edge is a fallacy. It's a myth. There is no edge. An edge is a team that is willing to grind out a game regardless of where they are on the ladder, regardless of the quality of player and talent that they have. It's a mental approach to playing competitive sport. And, how many times this season have we got to a 2, 3, 4 goal lead and then just sit back and invite the opposition to come at us because we're not prepared to grind out a game. We're not prepared to get our hands dirty. We leave too much to too few. It's a team full of passengers who are frightened by the physical aspect of the game. And, I'm going to say it again, and I know people probably think I'm a broken record, but the common denominator in respect to the playing list has been Adrian Dodoro. And Adrian Dodoro cannot be blamed entirely, of course not. But as a start, you mentioned that Carlton let go of their high-performance manager after a few bad losses. We've had 20 years of Adrian Dodoro creating our team, creating the list, and it hasn't worked. I mean, it just hasn't worked. So someone's got to be saying, well, we've tried 7 different coaches. We've had multiple high-performance coaches, assistant coaches, psychiatrists and sports therapists, you name it. We've tried it all. We've built a new training facility with 2 football ovals and state-of-the-art equipment, and yet still our list looks wrong. It looks imbalanced. There's not enough of certain types of players, but too many of the other type of player. And that comes down to recruitment. And I'm sick of having to say this, but the man is still at the club. And as we talked about recently, he's basically on a free lunch. He can leave when he chooses to leave. He can stay for as long as he wants to stay. And, you know, I think it's time that this football club just goes, you know what? It's the old saying that, you know, Einstein said, if you know, what is it? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting a different result. This is Essendon. It's Essendon to a core. You know, we hired Matt Rosa. I don't even know if Matt Rosa's got a track record in recruitment or list management, but we hired him. And the poor guys had to be, you know, in the background, you know, making sure that Adrian hasn't got any knots in his shoulder muscles. You know, here, can you just rub there for me, Matt? Because that's all he's doing. You know, Adrian, if you love the club, and I know you do, and you know, we understand your passion and all of that. No one's questioning that, but mate, do the right thing. Just ask for a gold watch and move on. I'm sure you've got a successful business going in the background there. Let's be honest, all Essendon executives do. It's time.
Side hustle.
Yeah,
I love a side hustle.
They do. And mainly, I think Essendon is the side hustle to their main occupation. But look, it's got to change. You know, if anyone's attending the AGM this year, the question must be asked of Barham and the board is, why do we persist with a recruitment team that has failed to deliver? We change our coaches like we change our underwear, but we keep the same people recruiting the list. Maybe there's a problem.
Do you remember this time last year when people were saying very similar things? And Dave Barham, I think, was on the SEN breakfast show, I think, talking to Tim Watson and Gary Lyon, and he said, you know, Essendon fans have an unhealthy obsession with Adrian Dodoro. And here we are again.
Yes.
And here we are again. And it was interesting, actually, in that the video that Herbertron created a week ago with the French Revolution theme, he opened with that clip of an interview of Dave Barham with 3AW, where they were asking him again,
a year
pressing on about Adrian Dodoro. And well, the clip ended. I don't know if the conversation ended at that point, but the clip ended with him saying, you know, basically, you know, it just depends on what Adrian wants to do.
Yeah.
And to me, I just find it's just, I'm flabbergasted.
Yeah,
really.
look,
if that isn't symptomatic of the whole problem, the whole issue, and the whole lack of ruthlessness, like who? Not just him, not just pointing at him, but who in the club? It's up to whatever they want to do.
Yeah.
Like what?
It's mind-boggling, and it really makes you wonder what goes on behind the scenes in that football club, where, you know, who's actually pulling the strings down there. And you know, you always hear about the power of our coterie groups and the sort of wealthy guys that help you know, back the football club and hey, look, they're passionate supporters, but it just seems too many, you know, people have a vested interest in other people, and there's just no hardness, there's no ruthlessness. You know, as my friend Peter said in his email, you know, Craig Fotso's a nice CEO. You know, if I was the CEO of that football club, look, you just got to go, okay, look, enough's enough. I can't actually blame any one individual, but we're going to make change. We're going to actually make change. And Barham came in like a cyclone, saying he was going to do that, yet here we are. 2 years on, and nothing's changed. Nothing has changed. We are still an embarrassment of a football club. We still have one of the worst lists in the AFL. At least a couple of years ago, it was one of the younger lists, and we used that as an excuse quite a lot, but it's actually not anymore. We're actually about the 5th oldest list in the AFL, and there is no sign of youth that's setting the world on fire. We talked about Roberts and Caddy, but really beyond that, you know, Sartis and Hobbs and the Davey boys and Hayes, these guys are sitting in the reserves. really not doing much to impress. So, where do we go to? What's the answer?
I mean, obviously we're biased. We only look at our other team and, maybe if we studied other teams some more, but there's just a real fragility.
What, you mean all the other teams that have won a final in the last 20 years?
Yeah.
Sorry,
there's just a fragility about our team and the lack of consistency, and, you talk about that mental toughness as well. Sure, all those things, and yes, the playing group, and yes, we've got some passengers, but boy, in the meantime, you just want to see a consistent sort of level of effort and intent that we saw for that 10-minute period in the last quarter last week, just stretched out over a bit longer.
I'm not going to say they didn't show effort or intent in this game against the Suns.
No. I mean, when you saw, like, there was they did for the most part, but in that last 2 minutes where we had the most to play for, the Suns did not. Right, they could have just rested their laurels on their away record and just gone, it's another one that another game that we let drop. A brave loss. In that last 2 minutes, we should have been the ones applying the pressure, but we were busy defending, just trying to hack, kick and getting the ball out. I was just so frustrated by that. Why weren't we applying the pressure?
It's coaching, and a really low player IQ, There was a moment in that last 30, 40 seconds where Sam Draper and Nick Bryan were in the defensive pocket. Gold Coast were threatening. We were only 5 points up. And I noticed with interest, Draper suddenly turned his head and sprinted back up to the wing. And was standing there. And Bryan took the throw in and won the tap out. And the ball was then slapped on one of our players' boots, sailed up towards the wing where Draper was, and he lost the marking contest. And then the ball came flying straight back in, and lo and behold, there was a big hole. Mac Andrews ran into it and took almost an uncontested mark. That is where Sam Draper should have been standing. At that moment in the game, he should have been filling the hole and making sure there was a defensive wall to stop them from scoring. And it's just poor management, poor coaching, poor player IQ. And, then the execution part of it. Look, I can't blame Brad Scott for these guys kicking one goal nine.
That's where you can't.
But,
that's where you can't. String a missing sort of twice from the same spot.
You can't blame him for that. But, you've got to blame him for us being in the position where we're always struggling to get our head above water. And half the problem with our football team is the reason we're missing shots is because we're always putting ourselves under pressure when going into the forward 50. It's never easy. There's no running into an open goal. Although last night I thought we had the game won when I think it was Gresham running into an open goal. I still don't know what happened there.
It was a push in the back.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it was a small nudge. It was there, but and didn't we just know? I mean, I think we just looked at each other and knew once that was taken back, that goal. We knew what was coming.
Good night.
Oh my gosh, that was
Yeah, look, I don't have a whole lot more to say. No. Bombers are done. 23 is done. 24 is done.
So we'll win this week against the Swans?
Well, as I said earlier in this show, if we do, then it's an insult to the fans. If we can get up and win at least one of the next two games, that would just be an utter insult to the football club's members. By the way, apparently it was thank you to our Members' Day yesterday.
Was it?
So thanks, Essendon. Cheers. We appreciate that. You really looked after us. So I don't know where we go. It's all about looking forward to the post-season again, the draft period, the trade period.
Here we go again. Rinse and repeat.
That's our happy time, right? That's our happy time.
Because we can dream.
Yeah. And they'll wheel Dodoro out and he'll be talking about how he's just recruited another 179 skinny midfield, 179 centimetre skinny midfielder who's not going to be the next Dustin Martin. So,
and then they'll get busy on Instagram. There'll be lots of videos of the guys kicking goals from the boundary line,
doing high altitude training in Mallorca.
Yes, and lots of well-oiled body topless players with abs. And here we go again.
Maybe not do the high altitude training. Let's do the opposite.
Low altitude, below sea level training,
underwater training. Let's do the complete opposite of what we've been doing. So let's give away our first round draft pick. for
It's
a fourth round draft
Seinfeld
pick.
approach. It's a very George Costanza
Let's do
approach.
that.
Remember when he did the opposite?
Yeah, well, I
and
think
it worked. It worked beautifully. I think it's time.
It could
I
be
think
the
it's time.
Could be the way, Jerry.
Yes. All right.
But, I think that's it for now. And
Okay.
again, apologies for another negative-laced episode.
Yeah.
Maybe if the club could throw a few wins our way, we might talk positively.
Yes.
But unfortunately, you
Yes.
cannot make chicken salad out of the proverbial.
Yes, and to end on this note, to those people that comment and say it's easy to throw grenades when the other side can't answer and provide a response, we have reached out to the club on more than one occasion for access to anybody really that will be provided, and we've always been shut down.
It's like a current affair, isn't it?
We are here. We will talk to anyone. We're happy to have our views, be they too forthright, be they stupid. We're happy to listen. But until such time, we're just going to keep throwing the grenades.
I know that the club watches this show.
Do you?
Yep, I do for
No,
sure.
I don't.
They do. They watch it and love it. Particularly the people who are in the sort of more junior positions down at the football club who have to work with Adrian and Dave and all the guys. They love it. And I just got a note to say that Craig Votso has never bought muffins for any of us girls in the typing pool.
Right.
And not just girls and boys.
There's still a typing pool?
But just one last point. As you know, I always like to kill an ending.
Right.
And another good friend of mine was out at the hangar during the week. I believe he had his sister with him.
Oh, really?
Was it your sister, Dom?
Right.
I think it was, or maybe his partner. I can't remember.
Right, okay.
But they went to the merchandise shop and were treated.
How was that?
Well, they were treated like lepers.
Were they?
There was and he actually sent me a photograph, which I might put up on our episode, of the charming young lady who works in the merchandise shop with her phone out and feet up on the chair, could not be asked to serve a long-suffering fan and member of the football club.
That couldn't be right.
And they just had to walk out because it was quite literally every time they asked a question about something, they were given the daggers. Like, how dare you interrupt my social media time? So this club is rotten to the core, and until we get rid of the people that have created that problem, we are not going to get any better. So to the club, if you are watching this, you're most welcome to respond, but you haven't got the balls to have you. So over to you, Joe.
Well, you know what they say, how you do anything is how you do everything. That probably is just quite just another little indicator. But, on a negative note, no, let's leave it at that, all right?
Guys, we will see you all next week. We're looking forward to watching the ladies' water polo return. They are doing an open bus through the city to a ticker tape parade after their wonderful silver medal versus España last night.
Against the Spanish,
We may bring up something to do with the Swans game, the Bombers versus the Swans. I'm not sure.
No, maybe we'll do an Olympics review.
We should.
Maybe we should.
How did the Tillies go?
The Tillies, not so good. But once again, we start in the pool. We love the water. We love it. All right. Okay, let's leave it at that. Thanks again for watching.
All right, boys. Girls.
Thank you.
See you soon.
See ya.
Cheers.
Bye.